our philosophy was, look, I don't necessarily care what your grades are, but what I do care is the effort that we see you putting in. So if one gets straight A's, but the other one gets A's and B's, if they both gave their best effort, then we're okay with that. And so, but if one gets a B and he shouldn't have gotten an A, I say he because they're both boys, then we're like, hey, listen, what's this B all about?
Also, I think what's worked for us is that when report cards come in, it's not just mom, dad looking at the report cards. Everyone sits and has a family, like, all right, show me yours. Everybody puts their report card on the table. And
competition, baby.
Everybody's looking at each other. So it creates not just competition. I think it also creates a support system as well. And also, good. No one's embarrassed. You know, it's like, hey, you got a C, bro. No one's embarrassed. You got a D? Dude, look, what do we got to do to help you as a unit to help you fix that D? So our experiment has worked. That's just the reality of it. I mean, a lot of people out today say Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes now. You probably heard that, right, Len?
The way we eat is a byproduct of our discipline, and our discipline is a byproduct of our personal development. So having a country where we tout this idea of freedom and all of this, where you have a section of our population that live in total fear, that does not sound like the America that we tell everybody about. The part where you have people that are being deported that are not criminals, I have a problem with that. The part where people are getting raided at their place of business and they're just trying to make a living for their family, I've got a problem with that. Where you have mothers and husbands and wives being separated and children being separated from their parents, I've got a major problem with that.
The problem I have with it is that if they are here illegally, that means you already shot yourself in the foot. You already created a criminal activity.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most. This is the podcast about preparing for what matters before it becomes urgent. We dive into the realities of aging, the complexities of family dynamics, the ins and outs of financial planning, and the big decisions that will shape your future. Because when the unexpected happens, a strong plan is the difference between protection and regret. In today's episode, we are joined by two experts in the field of family-focused financial planning. First, Dr. Len Cooper, founder of Beacon on the Hill, whose advocacy and programs have empowered countless families to navigate the challenges of elder care with confidence. And Chris Philp, a seasoned financial strategist with over 15 years of experience guiding families on how to safeguard their assets, manage care costs, and preserve their legacy. Together, Len and Chris will walk us through practical strategies for supporting aging parents without jeopardizing your own financial future, and explain why so many people wait far too long to start planning.
Awesome. Hey, it is August 5th. Len, can you believe it's August 5th already?
This year has gone by fast, not let alone just the month of July flew by. But man, it's crazy how quickly things are going, just like that.
Like that. And it was a birthday month for me and my wife, and we didn't even do anything exciting. That's how crazy this year has been, like lightning fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of August birthdays. I think if you go back 9 months, it was cold times. People needed to warm up, and all the August babies. So shout out to all the August birthdays out there, including my wife's is on the 16th, by the way.
Oh,
and my son's on the 29th. So 9 months. The same thing is true.
It's a very busy month.
It's a very busy month. Yeah.
My youngest daughter's birthday is this month on the 9th, August 9th.
Oh, wow.
Yep, August 9th, 2019. I can't even believe it. That was like my COVID child.
She's
I raised
a COVID
that child.
Baby. That's right.
Well, I mean, she was born before COVID, but I was
right
with her
that time.
In the beginning, you know, because I pretty much raised her the first couple of years because I was able to stay at home and run meetings at home and stuff like that. So, I mean, not that I don't stay at home now, but during that time, you know, that chaotic time, which, very by the way, there's chaos happening right now that you and I both used to go to at this time. It's actually happening this week if you check your social media. So
I already know exactly what you're talking about. That's an insider.
Interesting times, but welcome back with us here today, guys. Glad you guys could join us. We're having another insightful conversation. And as always, we're glad you guys could take some time to watch us or join us. We got a really cool lineup today. We got some really focused points that we're going to talk about and a couple wild card things as well. Before I go into that, anything exciting or anything like that going on this week, Len, I'll open up for you. It is back to school week for me. I may or may not have shared that already, but it is back to school week officially next week on Wednesday. So I'm going to road trip my kids back from California. But interestingly enough, this was the first year I did school re-enrollment in like the last 4 years, because up until then, my executive assistant always did it for me. But we transitioned a few things this year, and I ended up doing it this year, and it was just absolutely chaos. I have so much respect for parents that go through all that, because I have 5 kids in 5 different schools. I have university, high school, middle school, and in Texas, they have another one before middle school called intermediary, and then I have kinder through 5th. So it's just absolutely bonkers, but it's a joy to see that. But to see the school process from a parental perspective that I haven't seen that in depth in the last 4 or 5 years, it's definitely an eye opener. It took me a whole week to do it. A whole week to do it.
Especially for kids who transition from elementary to middle school, because that's the first time where they're moving from class to class. And you have all of these kids that are like, where do I go? Where is this class? And it's absolute chaos. So I definitely remember those days for sure.
Anything exciting or new going on in your area? I know besides the fact that you're in California, there's something always new and exciting going on in California. You never know. It's like waking up every day waiting for the shoe to drop, the next shoe to drop anyways.
Well, my son, who happens to be in New York, he just got a promotion at his job. And so he got a 10% raise. And so my son, who is not even 26, is already in the 6-figure range. So I'm excited for him. So that's awesome.
When did you hit 6 figures for the first time in your life? When did you hit that?
I was 32. Wasn't until 32, man. So he beat me by 7 years almost. That's exciting, man. Moly. That's exciting. I love that.
Well, interestingly enough, now that you brought that up, I had a moment last Friday. And I can share this with you because you're an academic, and you know, for most people that don't know this, you'll find out eventually. But this man here has 2 masters and a PhD. Most people don't even get a master's. He had to go and get 2, and then he went, well, you know, I'm done with that master stuff. I got to get a PhD on top, which is pretty impressive for someone who has not even a bachelor's. Okay,
so that just means I spent too much time in schooling and too much money on that education. So that's all that is.
Well, I mean, yes, I can. For someone who doesn't have it, I'll leave it at that for you.
I mean, it has open doors. I'm not going to lie, but it took a long time and a lot of money. So,
well, I'm sure you'll still appreciate this. I was registering, obviously, my oldest son for high school, and he had a 4.0 straight last year or last few years. But going into high school, as I was registering him, I was in the parent portal, and it said, hey, you have agreements to sign. So I'm going off and signing, the agreements and stuff like that. And then there's one in there for AP honors. And my oldest son, his freshman year, was selected, I had to sign agreements, and he had to sign agreements. I never knew you had to sign agreements. I didn't know that was a thing. He had to, and I had to sign it. He has honors AP in all classes this year.
What? That is amazing. That's amazing.
I was
he could get a 5.0 GPA this year. Do you know that? Because every AP class you have, you get an extra point if you get an A. So an A is 5 points, a B is 4 points, C 3 points, so on and so forth. So
that's what it means when it says double credits, or is that college when it says double credits? Because it says these classes will apply for double credits. What does that mean?
I think what it means, and don't quote me, but I think it means that it'll apply for both high school and college credits at the same time, because advanced placement is essentially a college level course. So if let's say he decides to go to a junior college to save money, then he could actually get an AA if he has enough of those courses. Or when he goes off to college, oftentimes those courses will count towards his early academic classes, so like his general education classes. So he could actually get through college sometimes faster, and that could be less money out of your pocket, especially when you look at all the kids that you have. That might save you some money.
Now, if they can all follow that record,
that part.
I thought you'd be interested to know that, because I didn't think you could get all that in all periods. And his schedule, I sent a screenshot of his schedule in our family group chat. And at the end of each class, it says HAP or APH after each period. And I'm like, do you see do you guys see this significance of AHP after all of them? I'm going, holy moly, or
that's
HAP,
a big deal.
However it was written.
That's a big deal. Oh yeah.
I was very proud.
Mm-hmm.
And we're having the conversation, and he goes, what should I do, Dad? And I said, and I just, you tell me what I should do. And I said, look, it's going to be a lot of extra work and a lot. And you're playing soccer and all these things you want to do. Mm-hmm. I said, but I think it's going to get you that edge, and you're getting that edge early. You're able to compound that effect going into freshman year because of the work you did the last couple of years. Take advantage of that compound now, because it's like you just said, he's going to be so much more further ahead. I didn't even know you could get a 5.0 just by getting all those classes like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, overall, of course, he won't get a 5.0, but for that particular semester or year, no doubt. And the other thing that I look at it is, it's not just getting the grades, but it's the discipline that he develops over the course of, studying, when his friends are out partying and hanging out, and he's making those sacrifices. So it also teaches deferred gratification. It teaches him leadership. It teaches him discipline, effort, all of those things, setbacks, because it's going to be tough. But if he's able to overcome that, then going into his freshman year, because of what happens is a lot of times when kids go into college their freshman year, they have this freshman dip because they're just not used to the rigor of college. So he'll be ahead of the game for sure.
Well, what's interesting about it is the fact that this has been an experiment for the last 15, 16 years for us, for Mary and I, in that we are very laissez-faire and when it comes to academics with our kids. The standard is all we care about is your grades. I don't care about anything else. I don't care what you do, how you do it, when you do it. All I care about, and this has been our perspective since day one with all of our kids, is just get good grades, because it's the only thing you have to do. That's your job right now as a child, right? Outside of that, if you want to go out and hang out, you want to party, you want to ride your bike, you want to play games, you want to sleep till 12 o'clock, I don't care. Because when that report card comes in, that report card there better be nothing less than a B. That's the standard. That was always the standard. So to see that experiment working now, and to see how independently, I can't remember the last time I've ever done homework with my kids. I mean, maybe like grade 1 through 5, but it's been a very hands-off experiment. And it's created a lot of independent critical thinking and study for my kids all the way. And even now I'm starting to see the same types of habits in, like my 10-year-old. I certainly see it in my 13-year-old, who's right behind Emery, but I'm starting to see that now in my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old as well, where they're starting to go, dang, these kids are very independent and they know how to get the job done at school without being a helicopter mom or dad. Interesting, huh?
That's a big deal, because a lot of parents have to spend lots of time with their kids. And, even for me, my wife and I spent a lot of time with one of our kids because, each of them requires different level of efforts, right? And so for us, our philosophy was, look, I don't necessarily care what your grades are, but what I do care is the effort that we see you putting in. So if one gets straight A's, but the other one gets A's and B's, if they both gave their best effort, then we're okay with that. And so, but if one gets a B and he shouldn't have gotten an A, I say he because they're both boys, then we're like, hey, listen, what's this B all about? And so, but through the process of those expectations, because those expectations were ingrained, really never had to enforce that philosophy because it just happened because the expectation was there all the time. So.
Of course, the dynamic's different with you. I mean, how far apart are your two sons? Are Jahid? How?
They're 2.5 years apart.
Okay. So for me, I have a tribe. So, I mean, I have a 6-year-old, I have an 8-year-old, I have a 10-year-old, and then 13, 14, 18, so on and so forth, right? So to explain that and to see that, what's also, I think what's worked for us is that when report cards come in, it's not just mom, dad, look at the report cards. Everyone sits and has a family, like, all right, show me yours. Everybody puts their report card on the table. And
Competition, baby.
Everybody's looking at each other. So it creates not just competition. I think it also creates a support system as well. And also, good. No one's embarrassed. You know, it's like, hey, you got a C, bro. No one's embarrassed. You got a D? Dude, look, what do we got to do to help you as a unit to help you fix that D? So our experiments has worked
okay,
a little bit good. So far.
That's good.
We're getting some validation.
I love it, man. So earlier you said that, if they get below an A or a B, you're not feeling so good about that. So when they do get that C or D, how do you and Mary confront that as parents?
Well, what's interesting is you get progress reports, right? So as things start to go on, you get these progress reports, you start to see what's going on. So if we see that, obviously everyone's be involved in that. It's going to be like, hey, for example, Emery, what's going on? You got a B right now, like a low B, or like you're close to the C threshold. Like what's happening here? Oh, I fell behind or something. And what can we do as a family to come together and help you? It's not a shameful experience or, oh my God, what are you doing? There's none of that ever happens around any of that stuff. It's like, hey, what happened? Hey, own it. Hey, what can we do as a unit to help you? If you need the unit, if you don't need the family unit to help you, and you're like, hey, I'm good. I know where I screwed up. I don't need to process it. I've got it. I'll clean it up. And then it gets cleaned up. You're right. Then you see that in the next progress report or ultimately the final grade book. But before that, if it is, hey, I screwed up, I need help with this, then everybody comes together or whoever can help him with that steps in and helps him with that. I remember one time, my son William was like atrocious. We were like, what is going on here? And he was like all C's and D's and he was behind on assignments. We all got together one weekend, pulled it all out and said, okay, you help him with this, you help him with this, you help him with this. And we all came together as a family to help him. And that was the last time, I want to say that was like a year and a half ago. That was the last time we ever had to do anything like that for any of our children. And it's just been kind of like, we've been very blessed and very lucky with it.
That's very cool. I know this topic is totally off of what we talked about that we were going to talk about. But as parents, man, that's the reality is, hopefully there's some other parents out there that have kids that are listening to this and can get some nuggets from this conversation. Because when you talk about excelling in elementary, middle, and high school, then you're talking about college. So my question to you is there's this transition that's taking place as it relates to the necessity for college, right? So when we grew up, it was, hey, you better go to college, better get those good grades. And if you didn't, there was something going wrong there. So what's your philosophy and what's your family's philosophy or you and Mary's philosophy about sending your kids to college and the importance of it, considering the fact that both of you are entrepreneurs? In my household, I'm the entrepreneur, but my wife loves being a school psychologist. And so we have different philosophies. So what's yours?
Well, interestingly enough, we were just talking about this. Mary's 45 and I'm 44. So we were in that generation where we had baby boomer parents, and baby boomer parents, I think, raised children a lot differently. And it's a different dynamic, but at any rate, college was still important. Both my parents were college educated. In fact, my dad finished college when he finished high school and was enlisted in the military. Like, it was crazy how far advanced he was as an academic. And my mom has a bachelor's in business from a community college in New York. So for Mary and I, she doesn't have a degree, I don't have a degree, but we were both professionals. She was a professional in the mortgage industry, and I was a professional in the entertainment industry. And for us, we didn't ever hold those. I only have ever held 2 W-2s. Only have held 2 W-2s. But moving forward in our philosophy today, it's very simple. It's you either go to college or you figure out what type of business you want to start, and we'll help you, seed capital that business if you choose to become an entrepreneur. That's it. You're going to do something, but we're not rushed with it. So I think most people are eager, or I don't want to say most people, I'd say I've heard or seen a lot of parents are eager to get their kids, you got to start working and supporting yourself and paying rent and all that stuff at 18, and you got to move out, or you got to do this and this. We are not of that belief. If you have to stay in my house until you're 25, 28, I don't care. It's the main reason why we're looking for 20 acres and wanting to do a compound. I don't want my kids to feel the stress pressure of having to make a decision and figure out what they want to do immediately when they get out of high school. But you got to know, hey, are you going to college, or do you want to start a business, or do you want to work? What are they? Ultimately, the path to work either leads to college or leads to a business, but you've got to pick one of those two paths. That's pretty much our philosophy.
I like that.
And they all know it.
And that's good that you ingrained that philosophy, because now they understand what the expectation is. And so it was a very interesting time, because with my kids, it was really a transition, because I transitioned from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur. And so with that shift, my philosophy shifted as well. And so we always ingrained in our kids, hey, you go to school, you get good grades so you can get a good job and have a good retirement. And I started to see that there were some flaws in that belief. And so my shift and transition was, look, as parents, we're going to find out what you're naturally more inclined to do. What are your skills? What are your gifts? And what are your talents? And it's our role as parents to drive you in that direction. So for my younger son, he's more into technology. And so we, gave him coding classes and put him in, he went to Harvard for, online, and, he took the class and he figured it out on his own. And so our older son is more of a people person. And so he's going into the field of counseling. And so my younger son will probably eventually work on his own, because he's preparing himself to transition when that time comes. And the older son, he'll probably be a career, counselor, but he also does coaching and basketball, drills and things like that on the side. So they'll both probably be entrepreneurs, one full time, but one having side hustles.
It's interesting, because none of my kids see me work for someone. They all see me as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. But my 18-year-old daughter really saw the struggle. Out of any of my kids, she saw what it was like for us to be broke. Broke and destitute, what is happening right now? Yes.
Entrepreneurship broke is much different. We talked a little bit about that before, yes. but being able to get to the other side of it, that's really what the separator is. I think most people who go into entrepreneurship, it's a sexy idea to be able to work on your own, to be your own boss. But the reality is most people sign up for just having their job become their boss, and they don't really get true freedom. And so I'm really glad to see that you were able to burst through the whole idea of just working for someone else, going through the struggle, and being able to come on the other side and actually be free and have your time back.
I think the transition ultimately comes down to the fact that you can't just be in love with the romanticism of the entrepreneur life and being an entrepreneur. You know what you see on social media? You actually have to be in love with the nasty, ugly, disappointing, being let down effects and path you have to cross through. And in saying that, I want to transition into one of our big topics, which was health, that we wanted to talk about today, specifically when it regards to Alzheimer's disease and the different lifestyle hacks to decrease your chances of getting it, because it's a big deal. And I know it's a really big deal in your area and what you do professionally for clients. And it's also a big deal for me in regards to stuff that's come up. But having your health really is an important thing if you're going to not just be an entrepreneur and run high performance, but if you plan on being a high value man or a high value husband or a high value father, a high value business partner, anybody that's you're going to perform at a max high level every single day, notwithstanding obviously stuff that's out of your control that you may or may not have. Just as an example, I just turned 44 and I don't feel like I'm not 20 yet. I still get up in the morning and I still go to bed at night and I feel like I'm 20. Outside of a little bit of tennis elbow that I get here every now and then, and my knee is a little tight, to me, I still feel 20, and I've prioritized that health. And I know we talk a lot about that, but Alzheimer's, why is it a big deal, Len? Why are we talking about it? Why is it so huge, and how is it preventable? I have my stuff I think I'm going to add to it, but you have a real big handle on this, I think. Tell me, because it's huge. And my dad's dad died of dementia. It took him 2 years. So he went from 78 to 16, like backwards, right? And over 2 years. So what is going on with it from your perspective, and why should you be thinking about it, and what's the enemy for you and what you've heard?
Yeah, first I'll start off because it really impacted me personally, because my grandmother was living with us. And so what happened is my grandmother's husband passed away, and eventually she had to move in with my father, and I was living with him at the time. And so one day, what she would do is she would make me breakfast on Saturdays. And so it was me and then my other two brothers that were part of the family by marriage. And so one Saturday I wake up and I don't smell any eggs, and I don't smell any bacon, and I don't smell any oatmeal or anything like that. So I walk into the kitchen and grandma's not in the kitchen. So I was thinking, okay, surely she must be in her room. She's not in her room. So I walk into the bathroom. She's not there. So I walk upstairs and I say, hey, Dad, where's grandma? He's like, what do you mean, where's grandma? I said, she's not here. So we walk out in the backyard. She's not there, not in the front yard. So long story short, we get in the car and we start driving all day, all night. We cannot find her. So the following day, he calls the police department and he files a missing persons report. And they said, you know what? She'll probably turn up. So we start walking around the neighborhood. Nobody sees her. Another day goes by. So now it's 2 days, Chris.
How old are you at the time?
I was 18 years old at the time. And so the third day, he gets a phone call from the police station, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, what's going on? And then they described her, and sure enough, it was her. She was 5 miles away, and she was dehydrated. She was disoriented. And what ended up happening is we took her to the doctor, and she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And my dad, because he had to work and we were in school and we weren't old enough to take care of her, he had to put her in a memory care facility. And 6 months later, she died. And so Alzheimer's is very personal to me. And because we've learned so much from then till now, had I known what I know now, what we would have done is we would have gotten her somebody in the home care industry to come in and provide care while my dad went to work and I was in school. But also we would have learned more. We would know more about just lifestyle habits and things like that. And so what I realized in the research that I've done over the years is that there's a lot to do with lifestyle that impacts one's likelihood or lack thereof of getting Alzheimer's. And I know that you and I have talked about that a lot, but you know, when you look on, certainly I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I've definitely done my research. And what I've learned is what happens is there's plaque that builds up between these two endings in your brain called synapses. And there's a little space in between those synapses where your brain develops. And there's another part of your brain called the hippocampus where new ideas and new memories start to form. So what ends up happening with Alzheimer's is because people have these old, you talked about your grandpa going from his age back to 16. And the reason why is because as their hippocampus starts to get eaten up by Alzheimer's and as it starts to spread with this plaque, all of those new memories are the first ones to go. And so what we have to do if we want to prevent it is to find different neural pathways. But the biggest thing with Alzheimer's is prevention. And so before I go into my whole long diatribe about what those preventative techniques are, I wanted you to talk a little bit about how you feel about Alzheimer's, because I know that it's something that you've thought a lot about, because obviously you and I don't want to get it. And we also want to share with other people what they can do to prevent it, at least to the best degree, from happening in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, to me, fortunately, we're in a world now today where we have the internet, right? I mean, the internet is a monstrosity in itself for all kinds of different reasons. But at the end of the day, you and I live in an area where we can so easily grab information and get any piece of information we want. And now we have an AI agent that can curate and grab that information in lightning speed fast for us, comparisons and analysis. But at the same time, at the end of the day, if for some reason we're human beings, we can read it here, but unless somebody actually tells us, I guess that's why influencers are so important, because if an influencer says it, you move, and when an influencer doesn't do it, you don't move. Interestingly enough, I'm rereading right now, and we're going to talk about this, about personal development, but interestingly enough, I am rereading all of Robert Greene's books right now. And he's got a big social media presence now. He's on YouTube a lot. I didn't know he did this. But
I'm really glad to hear that, because I know that he had a stroke.
He had a health. Yeah, exactly. He had some health issues. And if you actually go back and look at some videos he did a few months ago, he looks a little, you could tell, he looks a little fragile, right? But now he's looking better now. But I'm actually rereading, I just finished 48 Laws of Power. I'm rereading Laws of Human Nature. I'm going to get to Arts of Seduction, and then I'm going to get to Mastery. And I'm rereading that, but I wish someone would have came and told me these things when I was 18,
Great
20.
books, yes.
I wish someone would have came to me and told me about diabetes and Alzheimer's and how that's related, because it took the internet to get that information to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you and I could not have opened an encyclopedia 20 years ago, and maybe the studies weren't even there maybe 20 years ago. So I don't know. We could have certainly asked. And somebody said, hey, by the way, these habits are going to compound in your life, and they're going to lead to Alzheimer's, dementias. They're going to lead to this stuff. And I don't know about you, Len, but I wake up every single day, and I have a very healthy, I want to stress, a very healthy level of paranoia, right? Only the paranoid survive, right? If you've ever read that book. I have a very healthy level of paranoia about cardiovascular health, brain health, and metabolic health as a whole. I don't want to get into my older years and have a memory problem or a mental issue because I didn't do the compounding things here now. So I watched my grandfather go through it. I watched brain fog with my mom. Fortunately, my mom's 78. She's been a type 2 diabetic since 45. Fortunately, she doesn't have any of that yet. But still, you look at her and go, she's not as sharp as other 78-year-olds, right? And then you see the correlation and the difference between what makes this 78-year-old sharp versus this 78-year-old sharp. And I know some genetics are there, but at the same time, there's a big, overwhelming body of evidence now that 80% of this could be done with lifestyle changes. And we can talk about that. But it's huge for me because I watched my grandfather go through it. I don't want to go through that. I don't want my kids to have to see me do that. Right? Yes. So I'm going to do everything I can to see my grandkids and be healthy and productive at that age. There's no reason why. In my mind, unless something happens out of my control.
I agree with that. And I think traditionally, Western medicine has said, hey, the way to prevent certain types of diseases is when you start to see the manifestation of that disease. Here are X, Y, and Z medications to be able to alleviate or, decrease the impacts of that illness. And we are starting to learn that prevention and lifestyle is the better way to go about it. And so one is exercising. You and I have talked about exercising extensively. And for me, walking is my way of getting out, getting some vitamin D and exercising and making sure that my heart is getting, a certain rate per minute. I want to make sure that my heart rate is getting above 135 beats per minute. And I want to make sure that I'm sustaining that and making sure that I'm getting in my 10,000 steps. That's one of the things that I do to prevent Alzheimer's. The other one you talked about, which is you talked about having a Mediterranean diet and making sure that you're eating whole foods and making sure that the things that you put in your body isn't plaque creating. So, for those of you that are saying, okay, well, what's out there that I can eat? Just think about the rainbow of foods. So think about your fish, where that's, you've got your pink salmon, which is high in omega oils and high in the good types of fat. Think about other types of fats that's good for you, like avocados. That's good types of fat that you can put in your body. Olive oil, when you cook with that, because at certain temperatures, when you use different types of vegetable oil, it becomes rancid, or that's just a fancy word for, it starts to burn and the molecules in the oil start to break down and they cause inflammation in your body. So when you're eating and you're cooking with oil, it's not good to deep fry. But when you fry with olive oil, it's good for you. And so you want to do that. You want to make sure that you're eating nuts that's also high in fats. And so before, when we were growing up, fats was like a taboo word. But the reality is that your body has two forms of energy. When you eat stuff, it converts into energy in two different ways, either through carbohydrates or through fats. And so when we're talking about energy through fats, we're talking about the good types of fat. So make sure that you're eating well. Other types of foods that are good are your berries. So like your raspberries, your strawberries, your blueberries, those deep red berries are great. And then also leafy green vegetables. Make sure that you're eating that. And yes, sometimes we grow up not liking leafy greens. I love leafy greens because I look at it as my medicine now. And so I'm finding ways to take my spinach and put it with blueberry and put it with some tangerines and put some walnuts in it and dash just a little bit of dressing on it. I've got a nice salad. And you want to add some protein, put some nice chicken that's, low in fat. So like your chicken breast and things like that. So good types of food to eat. And so other things that you can do to relieve or reduce the likelihood for Alzheimer's is make sure that you're having a lifestyle where you're not overstressing. Because let me tell you, especially for those of you that are entrepreneurs, there will be times where you will wake up and it's dark and you will go to sleep and it's dark and you didn't make one dime. And you've made 100 phone calls and you've gotten 80 no's and all of the rejection comes your way and you start to call yourself a failure and a loser. And then your body has a reaction to that and it creates cortisol. And when that cortisol starts to create in your bodies, that releases toxic chemicals into your body, which starts to impact your overall health. Because why? Your tissues become inflamed, your arteries become inflamed. And if stress is a lifestyle, then cortisol in your blood is a lifestyle. And over time, that has an effect, a negative effect, which begins to break you down. And so while you may stress today and you may not feel the impact of it, but a lifestyle of stress will absolutely kill you over time. So make sure that you're doing that. And I think, Chris, as we delve into the conversation about personal development, how we react and respond to stress is definitely something I think we should talk about. So if I forget about that, definitely remind me. But that's huge. That's a big factor. And then finally, when we're talking about reducing the impacts of Alzheimer's, is just making sure that you have overall, good relationships and social interactions, because as humans, we're social animals. And so if you isolate yourself too much, then depression starts to kick in and you start to feel bad. And then all of those other factors, you start to eat because you're not feeling good, and all of the things that happen with the stress levels start to grow. So those are just a couple of things that I wanted to touch on lifestyle wise, because in my field of home care, my goal is to, if you're a professional that has an aging parent, we want to put you in a position where you don't need our services. We'd prefer that your parents stay healthy and not need our services. But at the same time, we also understand that there's a chance that the lifestyle may not lend itself, and that's where we come in, but we prefer for you not to need it. So I wanted to go ahead and just touch on those points of view.
And that's everything is there. You could go research all that and you can go look it up. And you could hear 1,000, exaggeration, 1,000, but you could hear 1,000 YouTube influencers, dietitians, all of them. I don't want to mention any names, but there's a ton of out there that will corroborate, what you just said: leafy greens, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, all of this stuff, the leafy greens, everything. But what's most important about all of that to me is, you can hear all that stuff and, oh, that's great, right? But the problem is that the rubber meeting the road is actually developing the discipline, like you said, to actually go out and do that and figure it out. Like you mentioned, like, oh, I'm exercising, I want to make sure that my heart rate is right. most people don't even know how to get their target heart rate, and you could Google that, right? What is it? It's 220 minus your age, get your max heart rate, and then you could vary it by small, medium, light, or intermediate, or stressed out, or whatever level of hit you're going to do, and you could train your heart, right? And these are just things that you took it upon yourself to actually go out and research and actually go and do. That is the point of self-development and personal development, right? And that, because if you don't, what was it? Ray Dalio was saying it. He was saying something about this the other day on a talk where he was saying, by the time you're 40 or 50, you start to see the compounding effect of the decisions you made when you're 20 and 30, right? So, right? And you start to realize in your 40s or your 50s, it's usually in your 40s or 50s, that's when, as men, you actually really start to realize the effect of infinite success starts to go away, or infinite opportunity starts to go away, where all of a sudden you start to go, wait a minute, I really don't have all the time. I really don't have all the opportunities. Like, this is crazy, right? And if you don't prioritize how sharp this thing is right up here, I mean, in Mediterranean diet, proven always Mediterranean diet that's organic, non-GMO, washed, clean Mediterranean diet, clean paleo Mediterranean diet, like as clean as you can get it. I know it's very difficult in today's world, but you can get it pretty damn clean, is the best way to do it, because you're prioritizing brain health, gut health, and heart health. And by moving, like you said, and getting target heart rate, you're prioritizing your legs, protect your liver, protect your lungs, protect your legs. Because if you can't move your legs, you're toast. If you can't breathe, you're toast. And if your gut, your liver doesn't work right, you're toast. Mm-hmm. Your quality of life sucks, and your life expectancy sucks. And that's just the reality of it. I mean, a lot of people out today say Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes now. You probably heard that, right, Len? You have type 1 diabetes, which is hereditary, right? You're born with it. Type 2, which is induced, and type 3, which is considered Alzheimer's. It's disease. It's autoimmune disease or over-sugared of the brain. That's what creates that plaquing in the synapses. Is what it's thought now is the sugar, the overabundance of insulin resistance and sugar in your bloodstream creates that much like that also creates the plaquing in your arteries from the artery scarring, right? From high blood pressure and from the overabundance of insulin, that also creates that plaquing in the synapses connection. So it's now said and thought. So I think for me, personal development and understanding why you want to be healthy and actually prioritizing it and actually creating a risk or a reward system for yourself personally, that's how somebody makes a plan and turns the corner. Because people are only motivated by fear or inspiration. And I hope you're inspired when you see this. I'm proving. I don't care what anybody says to me. As we get more advanced here and we understand the technology and understand these things, I have no problem sharing my lab reports with the world. I'll black my names out and I'll show it. I'll say, prove me wrong. I will show you a before and an after, because like I tell everybody, I say, this is an experiment on me. And I've experimented on it. And for all the people out there who want to say anything, and I know everybody's body's different, but by and large, if you run and you feel into that 80% mark, like most people do, I got the data to prove that it works. And you can't tell me. That's why I walk into a doctor's office now, any doctor's office, with confidence, because it's like, oh, your LDL is high. You don't know the difference between run an advanced LDL panel. Right? Oh, this is you just don't understand unless you do the data and you look at the numbers and you go, damn, this is freaking crazy. You can actually reverse adverse health conditions and you can actually get your body to feel like you're 20. You can. It's amazing what it can do. But self-development is the key to it, I think, and having that personal development plan and actually taking those steps. So if you want to take some time on that, Len, because you're pretty big on that, and I could give in my perspective as well, unless you didn't forget about what you were going to say about something. You said, don't forget. I want to tell you, don't forget. No,
it was exactly that. It's tying in Alzheimer's and personal development.
Yes.
Because the idea is that the way we eat is a byproduct of our discipline, and our discipline is a byproduct of our personal development. And when we make a connection between understanding that how we do anything is how we do everything begins to change. And so as it relates to personal development, I always grew up with this idea that, hey, I'm just going to school so I can get a good grade, but I've never made the connection between what were the different specific activities that I was creating that made me a better human being, that made me a more disciplined human being. And so now I understand that as a human, I'm not just about learning about concepts to get a good grade. I'm a lifelong learner. I am a voracious reader. So typically, between listening to audio books and reading physical books, as you can probably see in the back, I typically read about 4 books a month. Sometimes if I'm really, really busy, it'll be 1 or 2, but on average, I'm reading somewhere between 2 to 4 books a month. And so even if I get one tangible nugget from an entire book, I don't consider that a waste of time, because I look at somebody taking 10, 20, 30 years of their knowledge and condensing that into a week's worth of time for me. And so if I can pick up a nugget and apply that nugget in my life, that's amazing, because, the idea of each one teach one, or the idea of really just taking concepts and knowledge and really having it, it's not important when you just have knowledge. It's the applied knowledge that makes the difference. And so I want to acquire knowledge so I can apply it to my life, to make it better for me, to make it better for my family, to make it better for my employees, to make it better for the people that I associate with. And so the acquisition of knowledge is not just personal as well. I know there's a ripple effect of me acquiring that information, because it can help me help others. And I think if you think about it, that's probably at the foundation of our show here, is that we're not YouTubers. We're not media people. We're just 2 entrepreneurs that want to share information. And if we share enough, we hope that we continue to get better at this craft and share enough information for you to glean from our experience, so you can cut down your learning time. For me, I'll speak for myself. It took me quite a long time to experience success as an entrepreneur. I could have cut that down had I understood the value of personal development. And so I look at personal development from a spiritual standpoint. So making sure that I'm reading my word and getting a better understanding of my beliefs, and also from a standpoint of business. And so my business isn't just a byproduct of the day-to-day activity I do. It's understanding systems and operations and personnel and all of those things together. That's also part of personal development. But also it's understanding us having social capital and being able to interact with people around me. Because if you're a jerk all the time, and maybe you're a boss and maybe you have lots of employees, if you're a jerk all the time, and you don't necessarily have to care about people liking you, but you definitely want people to respect you. And the way that you get respect from other people is to give respect. And so I think that also falls in line with personal development. I was watching a podcast, and I'll turn it over to you after this. I was watching a podcast, and there was a gentleman talking about a mentor that he worked with, and he said this mentor was very difficult to work with, but he learned a couple of things. He learned that you have to be able to separate the noise from being targeted on the specific objective. And when you can target on that specific objective while at the same time eliminating all of the distractions around you, you have the ability to get more done in that 24-hour period of the day. And it takes real discipline not to allow every notification on your phone, every text you receive, every email you get to set you on a different path away from your target objective. So eliminate the distractions, eliminate the noise, stay focused. And part of the discipline that you attain through personal development helps you get there.
I couldn't have said it any better. To me, it's interesting when you say the noise, right? Because I remember I was giving a training one time. It was like 2016. I just read a book by Grant Cardone. It was Sell or Be Sold, I think, is the name of it. And he was talking about the ability. Oh my God, right? And he was talking about the ability to rise above the noise, right? And then you hear the difference between signal and noise in your life and how to apply signal and noise. And if you haven't understood or what that means is that signal, the amount of signal you have basically means the amount of attention, no matter what. It's unadulterated attention and effort towards one specific topic or goal. So for example, if you're 100% signal in your work, that means you do nothing else except for work, right? Mm-hmm. It's that totalitarian, right? So recently, Kevin O'Leary was giving a comparison between Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. And he was saying, hey, I used to work for Steve Jobs. And he was saying how Steve Jobs was 80% signal and 20% noise, right? So 80% of his life was Apple and work and nothing else, right? And then he was saying, Elon Musk, by contrast, is 100% signal. I've never met anybody like that, right? So obviously he's an outlier, right? If right? So not everyone's going to be that like that. But you have to actually have a very concentrated, focused, unadulterated effort on a self-development plan or something you're going to change in your life. And for me, it's like what I alluded to earlier right now. In self-development for me and in what I'm doing right now is I am very much so in a formulation and a strategy, very heavy in a strategy and formulation phase right now in what I'm doing in some businesses and what I'm doing in transitions in life. Not just for me, and of course we've talked about this before, but self-development and leading in both personal, business, spiritually, but I'm making a lot of those changes right now. And that's exactly why I'm going back and rereading a lot of Robert Greene's books and a lot of books on strategy and getting better at strategy and plans and implementation and execution, because I want to be very, very good at that by the time Q4, Q1 rolls around. See, what I'm doing today and doing right now is directly going to impact my Q4 and my Q1. When I say Q4, I mean Q4 of this year and Q1 of 2026. And ultimately, it's going to make my life easy come Q2 of 2026 so I can take my kids and my family, because I'm going to go on vacation next summer for a whole month with my kids somewhere. I want to take my kids somewhere for a whole month. I want to spend a whole month somewhere. That's the purpose and the point behind a self-development plan, because you could do the necessary things you need to do now to create the focus, signal, and effort now to make those changes in your life. So I always like to focus on a specific topic every 90 days. And I like to find as many books and resources as I can on that topic. And I spend the whole 90 days reading nothing and studying nothing but books and resources on that specific topic. And it's a way for me to create 100% signal in my self-development in a specific topic. And I've been doing that. I think all of 2017 and 2018, all I did was I was obsessed with health and research and biology and all of these things, because again, we have the blessing of the internet. Leading into that and transitioning into that, current events that's going on right now. There's a lot going on right now. Who'd have thought the Sydney Sweeney thing would be huge between now and the last time we talked, Glenn, when it's massive, right? And somebody showed me an ad of the Cindy Crawford Levi's jeans. It plays the song, oh yeah. God, it plays that ad, and Cindy Crawford is basically walking out of the car half naked in the 90s. And no one said anything about that, right? Mm-hmm. And an American Apparel ad I just seen. You don't remember American Apparel, right? Oh, yeah. There's a picture. This is mid-2000s. Right on the cover of the magazine, the girl's sitting there with her legs open, and it says, we're open now. And it's like, today is like this craziness about Sydney Sweeney. Say what you want to say about it, but I don't want to talk about that today. But leading into it, there's a lot going on today, specifically with the immigration, ICE, mass deportations. I saw a video late last week, early this week, about they were in, I think, Austin or something to that effect, and the stuff that was going on. It was Chicago, maybe it was Chicago or Illinois they were at, and what was happening there. I know it's huge in Southern California, and you are kind of seeing that because you've been in it where you're at in your area. So, Cal, maybe not so much, but you're close to it. I haven't seen any of it. I don't know any of it's going on. I'm in Texas. It's business as usual here, but I do see the impact of it on families, and I do see the impact on social media, and obviously that's social media, so you're getting that through that lens. But what's your perspective on that, Len? We can have a quick conversation about that as business owners, but as two people living in America today, seeing this in the mid-40s and mid-50s range. What's your thoughts or perspective on what's going on with that, how it's being done, and the ramifications of it?
Yeah, it's really a mixed bag that requires a nuanced conversation, because there's both sides of the immigrant argument that a part of my perspective lies. The part where you have people that are being deported that are not criminals, I have a problem with that. The part where people are getting rated at their place of business and they're just trying to make a living for their family, I've got a problem with that. Where you have mothers and husbands and wives being separated and children being separated from their parents, I've got a major problem with that. And so here in Southern California, there is a lot of that going on. And one of the things that I wonder how our country would respond, because, you know, like you talked about, you're in Texas, so you don't see any of the repercussions of what's taking place when you have LA become essentially a militarized zone for a few days. That created a lot of tension. And even at the schools in my area, because I'm about an hour away from Los Angeles, but there are kids in the schools around my home that are scared to come to school because they think that immigration is going to come and take them and separate them from their family. And so having a country where we tout this idea of freedom and all of this, where you have a section of our population that live in total fear, that does not sound like the America that we tell everybody about. Now, having said that, I also understand that as a country, we need to have rules and we need to have laws, and those rules and laws need to be followed because that's what maintains order. And so if a person comes and immigrates illegally and they commit a crime, I am 100% about that person being detained and deported. However, here's the challenge, is that with the new Trump policies, that the whole idea of having their day in court, having the opportunity to defend themselves and to be innocent until proven guilty, those rights have been stripped away. And so because of those draconian laws and policies, even though 70% of the people that have been deported allegedly are criminals, but it's still 30% of the people that are not. And so when you take all of that into consideration, I'm really concerned about the ways that the immigration policies are being implemented. Because yes, we do need immigration reform. And yes, though, I think there needs to be more of an effort towards the whole idea of having a more efficient pathway to citizenship. Now, from an entrepreneur standpoint, from the standpoint of an employer, imagine if tomorrow every immigrant family said, you know what, we're going to unite with our brothers and sisters and we're not showing up to work until all of this is taken care of. I think about the Montgomery bus boycotts back in the 1960s. If the immigrants came together and said, you know what, whether you're documented or undocumented, we're not showing up to work until these laws start to change, I bet you the rest of America would feel it, because the food you get, the buildings that are built around you, many of the roads that are being built have been built by immigrant labor, especially the food you buy. And so if there's one thing that will impact everybody's pocketbook, imagine immigrants' hands stop growing that food that we enjoy every day at a reduced cost. And so for those employers, I think they're concerned, because if their workers don't show up, food doesn't get distributed and we all end up hungry.
This is such an interesting conversation to have. I'm torn on this simply because I have a big family. And by the way, my family is half Hispanic. So third generation. My kids are half Mexican. So I definitely see all of that going on. But at the same time, I can't help but sit in Wonderland and go, okay, they have no rights. They're not citizens of this country. And if I went to a different country, if I went to Mexico, Mexico's not going to give me the same rights that they give their citizens. I'm a American citizen. They're not going to treat me the same way. If I go to any country in the world, I will be treated less than, just simply because they're going to follow the letter of the law based on how they treat non-citizens, right? As an example, I would never want to be arrested in any country but America. I'm just sorry. I don't want to be arrested in any country but America. I'm sure you feel the same way. Okay? I never want to be arrested in any other country but America.
But I would disagree with that. Just go research the number of people that are incarcerated in the United States versus other countries. But we'll table that to another day. But keep going.
But I think there are more people incarcerated here because you can do more crap here. Whereas you can't do that in another country because they'll kill you. Like, here's how I leave it with immigration on this point. If you come to America, you never see, obviously you're seeing it a little differently right now, but regular police officers, you go through the airport, you go through government buildings, they don't have semi-automatic rifles on them. Any other country in the world, they do. I can go to Mexico. They got a semi-automatic rifle right here when you get off that plane, even in Cancun. Okay?
In Central and South America, yes. I've been in Africa. I've been to Ghana. I've been to Morocco. I've been to Senegal. They don't carry semi-automatics there.
Next time you go, I have to come with you because I haven't been able to be cultured.
Please do. Yes.
I've been to Dubai. I've been to Qatar. I've been to I've been to Maldives. I've been to a few of them, but I haven't ever been to the African countries. But the problem I have with it is that if they are here illegally, that means you already shot yourself in the foot. You already created a criminal activity, right? Just like you and I. Like if you and I did everything right, but we did something wrong, we still are going to be subject to that criminal activity, right? I mean, that's just the way it works. So the fact that you broke the fundamental policy and you became here illegally, right? That means you already committed a crime. That means you are already in trouble, right? You already have to now prove yourself that you're not a criminal because you already became a criminal. You already have a scarlet letter on yourself because you did that. Now, I understand maybe you had to come here, extenuating circumstances, all this stuff, but you see that rioting and you see that stuff happening in LA. They're not waving the American flag. They're waving different countries' flags. If you're going to come to America, then come to America and be American. Assimilate. That's the problem. The problem is that you come here and you wave a different flag, then go. If that flag is so great, why are you here waving that flag? Go wave that flag somewhere else. That's just my hard stance on it. Do I want to see families separated? Do I want to see wives and husbands separated? No, it's heartbreaking. But at the same time, I wouldn't expect you to feel bad and say, Chris, I feel so bad for me if I smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day and now in 2 years I'm dying of lung cancer and you're going to go tell my family, it's not right. It's not right that Chris is dying. No, I would say, yeah, I smoke 2 packs a day. That's my fault. But you would not have sympathy for me. Maybe because you guys say, Chris, you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. What do you expect? You're going to get lung cancer. I'm being separated from my kids now. Well, you came to the country illegally. What do you expect? You didn't think that was going to happen? Who would want to live with that over their head? Who would want to be going like this? Like you're just sitting waiting for that day that person's going to come. You're waiting for that day to happen. That's a lot of anxiety. I don't know how you could live with that anxiety, but I get it.
Go ahead.
As I say, conditions in other countries are atrocious compared to America. And I get why they come here. It's desperate. You're in a moment of desperate. I can't say I wouldn't do the same thing if I was in that situation, but I would want to say that I would probably figure out a way to make the best I could in my country I'm trying to escape from, but I would probably go through that process because I do, for example, my nanny's from Mexico. My nanny has her green card. It took me 4 years to get her green card for her, but I did it. I hired an attorney. I'd gone through all the routes. I got her, I sponsored her. I did all of it. You can't, and that was holy moly, was that a situation to go through.
No doubt.
I agree. There's got to be some immigration reform. I don't know the answer because I don't know it. But what I do know is that if you came here illegally, you already broke the law. So, and a lot of the guys, yeah. So, yeah. And I'll close up with this, because I know you want to jump in. I know that's always a common thing. I would love to do a study. I'm going to be more prepared on it. I would love to know the exact labor of that undocumented labor there is in the country. And actually say that because nothing would give me greater joy on this topic and a lot of other topics than to finally have concrete answer to somebody say, that's a BS bullshit. The labor thing would not affect the prices of groceries and not affect the prices of food. It's BS. And amen to animatronic robots that will eventually do that job. And I know I'm probably going to get in trouble from a lot of people that I just said that, but one day it's going to happen in the next 10 years. You're going to have humanoids doing that kind of labor anyways, eventually. So, and I think we talked a little about that, but I'll throw it to you, Len. I'm probably in trouble now.
No, hey, listen, one of the reasons why there was not a need for slavery in the South is because of the invention of the cotton gin. And so when machines were able to replace humans, then the means of production began to shift. And so I have no doubt that the same thing will happen for the immigrant labor that exists right now. I live in California, and I used to live in what was called the breadbasket of California in Kern County. I used to live in Bakersfield. In fact, over 80% of all of the almonds in the world come from this little city called Delano. And so where the Blue Diamond almonds are, they come from there. When you go and you see people in the fields, in the grape fields, you see Mexican immigrants by and large. When you go in Oxnard and you see people picking strawberries, they're typically Mexican immigrants. When you go in the Southern California area and they're picking tomatoes and different agricultural foods, by and large, the people that I see there are Mexican immigrants. And so I don't have any statistical numbers in front of me. I'm just a random dude on YouTube, but my eyes have shown me historically that population is largely responsible for the food that comes into our stores that we go and put on our tables. And so I would love to see that study as well. But my point that I really want to drive home is the fact that there's so much dehumanization that has taken place with that population. Think about it. If the Mexican economy was as strong as Canada's, do you think that there would be this influx of immigration? Of course not.
No, absolutely not. They would stay, right? That's exactly the reason why a lot of people come. I mean, a lot of people come to America because they want to live like Americans and they want the opportunity to travel in America. But a lot of people from the South are coming into America because the conditions there are atrocious. So why should we feel bad for what their country is doing to them? Because in the reality, they don't feel bad what's happening to us here. They don't feel bad, right? So how do you, the onus should be on their home country. Their home country should be doing what they need to do, but instead they're not disciplined enough and the cartels run the countries there. So the corruption is deep.
I think there's a lot of factors though, because when you look at the North American Free Trade Agreement, part of the negotiation there was to reduce tariffs and that there'd be no barriers of trade. And that's one of the reasons why so many of our cars are now being produced in Mexico. If you look at the GDP of Mexico now versus what it was 30 years ago, they've made a lot of strides. However, they're still not where they are to be able to sustain the economic system in their entire country. And so when we talk about wanting to curb immigration, I think we need to look at ways to help empower their economy so there's not the same need for them to feel the need economically to immigrate here illegally. And if we had a faster pathway to citizenship, then for those that wanted to come here to the United States, then it'd be open. But let's keep it 100%, Chris. This used to be Mexico years and years ago. So I really don't want to open up that can of worms, but this land was not always the United States. And so those borders have definitely shifted over the years. And so when you had America that was able to benefit from hundreds of years of free labor, got a head start, and our economic benefits really grew extraordinarily fast. In fact, United States is the richest country in the history of the world. And so there's a lot of economic factors that tie into that. And so when we talk about the U.S. economy compared to the Mexican economy, there are different contexts there. And so we need to take that into account. And in my opinion, as I wrap up, I think if we help Mexico get a stronger economy, that's another element of immigration reform, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, it sounds kind of like capitalism works, and it kind of sounds like if
they have a capitalistic economy, they do.
It's kind of almost like a corrupted capitalistic economy.
There is a lot of corruption. There's no doubt about that, for sure.
So had America not been such a successful capitalistic country, then we wouldn't have the opportunity to export capitalism to Mexico. Right?
Good point. Very good point. There's a lot of context behind the capitalism and
of course
and the money that the United States gathered for a long period of time that Mexico did not have that benefit.
Right. And at one point Manhattan belonged to Native Americans, but they sold it. So I mean that was a business transaction, wasn't it, between Mexico and America? I mean, wasn't that a business transaction?
But the whole idea of land and ownership was not a thing for Native Americans. That they belonged to the land. It wasn't something that they would own. So if you have one group that has this idea of exploiting the land to gain and gather wealth from it, as opposed to living in harmony with it, the way they define success versus the way when I say they, I'm talking about the Native Americans, versus the way the Europeans define success in America in the early settlement days. There were very completely different definitions. And based on that, one group got exploited because they didn't see this land as being something that what once sold would not be something they could partake in. And so now they're in reservations all around the world. And a lot of the land that was purchased at a fraction of the cost has been able to be used and utilized for personal wealth and gain. That's just a fact.
I know I'm going to get in trouble here again, but I can't help but say this. Okay, all right, fine. That's the case, but I just got to think about it this perspective. Okay. When I invent the time machine, okay, will you personally go back and apologize to Neanderthal man for evolution phasing him out and creating Homo
sapiens?
Homo sapien man? Will you please? Can I? In fact, I want to bring my smartphone with us when we time travel, and I want to. Here's Len Cooper apologizing to Cro-Magnon man for evolution phasing him out. That's like me going and apologizing to all these bad decisions were made for land transfer or title. In fact, we should just have the British Empire, the British Crown, apologize for all the land that they took and still have today. Because they're just so proper and gentlemanly that we don't give the British any crap for being the worst country in the world for taking over other countries and raping and pillaging the land. It's history. We know it. But they don't have to apologize, but America always has to apologize for making a decision to acquire land. That was their decision to make that business deal. Whether they knew it or not, that was the decision. And I just have to throw it in the category of law of natural selection and evolution. Look, at one point, whether it was Neanderthal being phased out because the design evolutionary wasn't going to survive what the world was today, or it now in today's world, you don't get evolved out through your nose growing a certain way. You get evolved out because this thing up here thought different than this thing thought here in this specific group of people.
But now you place a different value on somebody's way of being and living. And I think that argument's much different than the theory of evolution, because you have with, supposed Neanderthal man evolving into Homo sapien. That was a period of natural selection that took place according to that theory over thousands and tens of thousands of years. Whereas in this case, you're talking about two equally intelligent groups of people that just express culture in a different way. And one culture was more exploitative and another was more, I don't want to say docile. That's the wrong word. Was more welcoming. And the one that was more welcoming got exploited. And so I don't think that's a value laden statement to say that one was, the more natural, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I don't suggest that you're saying they were better at all, but you're saying just through natural selection. And what I'm saying is that in this case, they were just more friendly and they got dominated. That'd be like having two of your kids. One of your children is, a lot nicer. And so they, give their cookies and their toys away. And the other one takes all the cookies and toys. That doesn't make one of the kids better than the others. They just have different ways of being.
But that's the way of the world. I have a different way of fighting. And my style of fighting in the ring beat your style of fighting. We're both equal fighters. You're a Muay Thai fighter and I'm a mixed martial artist. And we got in the ring and my style beats yours. That's just what it is. My style of negotiating beat that other person's style of negotiation. Therefore, I got all the land.
Okay,
we didn't kill them for it, did we? Mexico. We didn't go to. Yeah, there was a Mexican.
There was a Spanish-American War.
Yeah, so there was a war there, right? See, that's why I got to lean on your academia for that, right? That's why you got the. But at the same time, that was it. We won the war and we had the land. You can't go back and say all of those things. Look, here it is. If Mexico took care of their country like a responsible country did, then there wouldn't be as much immigration. If all the other South American countries didn't have that inherited curse of corruption from Spain and Portugal, then those countries wouldn't be in mass migrating here. Look, we just happen to have one of the best places to migrate to, and we happen to just be geographically convenient. Because I'm sure those people would migrate to Western countries, other Western countries, right? Because the draw is to a Western country. You don't see people immigrating to non-Western countries. You see people always immigrating to Western countries, specifically America, because that is the Western country of Western countries. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody wants to be and live like America, by and large, for the most part, right? So I just think that if these countries did the right thing, you wouldn't have this immigration problem. I think it stems down to the fact that the country of origin is not doing their job to make it enticing for those people to stay in their country of origin. And therefore, we should be mad at them, meaning our leadership should be doing something about the leadership in those countries instead of us just saying, oh, let's be nice. And that's kind of like how I like the way Trump is doing, the tariffs and the negotiations, because we've had enough BS and enough beating around the bush, so to speak, talk that, bro, let's get to brass balls here and make a deal and let's do something here, because the way we're doing it's not going to work. And America, you want to talk about, well, Americans pay higher prices because we don't have immigrant labor. Well, if America wasn't putting seed capital all over the world for no reason, then we wouldn't have a problem employing Americans and paying them $20, $30 an hour to go to pick cabbage in a field in Greenfield. Interestingly enough, like 80% of the produce in Texas comes from California. You guys don't even get to get it. But interestingly enough, it costs more for lettuce in California than it does in Texas. Go figure. Right?
Okay.
So I don't know.
So you want to have the tariff conversation right now? Is that where you want to go, or you want to finish up the immigrant conversation? How do you want to take this?
I think we're good on immigration.
Okay.
I think here's the key, right? I don't agree with a lot of the stuff the way it's being done, but I also say that it has to be done that way right now because we haven't done it with that type of violent insurgent yet, right? I don't think there's any other. Is it the right way to do it? No. Is it the most effective way to do it? I think it is, because sometimes you need that type of to make something happen, right? You need a disruption. Sometimes you need a disruptor to create something to eventually bring the tone down, right?
Yes.
Because everything else wasn't working.
Okay.
Fix the origin country, we won't have as much people trying to get here. We don't overstress the system. We can make meaningful reform. But until the origin country gets its act together, we're going to continue to have this flood of people trying to get here. And also people paying people to come here. We saw a lot of that. But I think we could transition to tariffs if you'd like, unless you want to have a closing point on that.
I would say my closing point would be, your camera went off. Okay, there you are. My closing point on immigration would be, look, I agree with you with regard to helping a country improve their economic situation. Part of it is by reducing corruption that takes place. But part of the corruption is because the drugs that come to America get they make their drug money because we're willful consumers. And so we're also contributing to the whole cartel corruption that's going over there indirectly. The other thing that I would say is that there needs to be a right to due process for those people that are already here. And so if a child is born in America to undocumented parents, there needs to be a specific and quick and expedited process to determine what's the best path to citizenship for those parents. And if there's any criminal background, any criminal record, then needs to be litigated. And then if and only if there is a history of criminal behavior that is hurting this country, then that person should be deported. And then finally,
what about the child though? What do we do with the child?
That's where
the American citizen child now, because we now have an American citizen being deported.
Every situation would be different. I agree with that. And I think that's where the courts in conjunction with the specific situation should come into play. For example, let's say a family has been here for 20 years and they have a family that's been here, they're documented, or they're, born here and they're U.S. citizens. Maybe the children go stay with them and then they go back and forth to visit their family in that other said country. So every situation would be an individual, a case by case scenario. And so that way you make the process humane, and the pathways to citizenship should be, look, if you do A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and you complete that in this period of time, and you are, you get your visa and you go to work and you make money and you pay taxes, and there's a paper trail of that. Then if you do that and you check all the boxes, hey, welcome. Because last time I checked, just about everybody here came through immigration. My parents and grandparents and great grandparents came here, and I'm of African ancestry. You're of European ancestry. You talked before about Italian, and what was the other one? Was it Scandinavian?
From Scotland.
Scotland, right. So
from Scotland.
There you go. And so the United States is the place where immigrants come, and that's where its history is steeped in. So to not have a pathway to citizenship, to me, is criminal. So we can put a bow on that conversation. I'm sure there'll be other opportunities to talk about that as this continues to unfold, because President Trump's only been in office 6 months. There's another 3.5 years. And he just in the big, beautiful bill, it says that he allowed, I think, $170 billion allotted for border enforcement. That is a lot of money. So this story is definitely not going away.
It's really only a fraction of what Biden administration sent to a bunch of other stuff.
Are you talking about to Ukraine? Facts. That is
yes.
Fact. That's a fact.
Facts.
I agree.
And that war's still going on. It's still happening. It's still going on.
Even though Trump said he'd get rid of it in 24 hours, it'd be gone in 24 hours. But hey, another conversation for another day.
I think there's a lot of complex nuance there that has to deal with a lot going on there. At any rate, I definitely think that we could transition into the crazy stuff that's happening. Here's the biggest issue I have with the Here's the biggest issue I have with the tariffs and the whole Trump rollout or economic policy here. And this is what I don't understand. And maybe this is just politics. And maybe someone's going to say, Chris, it's just politics. It's the way it is. You had all these leaders, all these senior leaders on the other opposing side, Democratic leadership, right? Hakeem, Pelosi, Schumer, you name it. Even the extension of the Democratic Party, which is late night TV and legacy media for the most part, except for maybe Sky News or Fox or Newsmax or whatever. Is Newsmax like the alt-right one? Is that like the really, really alt one, Newsmax? Like that's like the super right one, right?
Newsmax is kind of like center right, but you've got Cuomo on there who used to be on CNN and other reporters.
Holy moly, are you serious?
They purport to be balanced. On Newsmax?
Yeah.
I think so, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's on Newsmax.
I think they all have to be balanced in today's world, because I don't think you can get away with not being balanced now, because I just think you get told to shut up now and you have to take it now. But at any rate,
wait, what? Say that one more time.
What I'm saying is I don't think you can't.
You're not saying that these news outlets are balanced. You're not saying that, right? That's not.
I think they're a lot more. No, I think they're a lot more balanced than they used to be. What I'm saying is they're not as crazy as they used to be. Like you. Yeah, it was way crazy before Trump was in office. I mean, now it's a little bit more balanced, I think, because people are. I mean, look, he's winning all the lawsuits against legacy media. I mean, they're paying him millions of dollars.
So
he's
getting
all the money back to pay the chief.
Cuomo's on News Nation, not Newsmax.
News Nation.
So he's News
hey,
Nation,
you know what Trump's going to do?
So I stand corrected. So, yeah.
I have a theory, Len. I know why Trump's getting all that money from all the lawsuits from like 60 Minutes, and he's using all that money to pay the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit that he lost, the $80 million. He's going to take that. He's going to take that money and he's going to pay them, and he's going to go, "Hey, here you go." I don't know. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. I would make those guys pay for it.
Man, he even sued his guy Rupert Murdoch. Man, that's just interesting.
Hey, man,
but
all's fair in love and war.
Let's talk about tariffs.
Here's the issue I have. Okay,
facts. That's the truth.
All of those guys. Okay. Here's the facts. If you go back and you look at all those people that I just mentioned, our political leaders that were opposite of him, they all came out and vehemently didn't just oppose, but they said, this is horrible. It's going to create a recession. The country's going to get destroyed. This is the worst thing in the world. Blah, 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 blah. We know the shenanigans. We saw it for the whole years he was president and the whole years after he wasn't president until he was president again. And we're still going to see it. Whatever. Okay?
And to be clear, you're talking about the implementation of his tariff policy would have a negative effect. That's what you're talking about? Okay. I just want to be
specifically
clear.
That. Yeah, specifically tariff policies. And then we get back over to it here now since it's happened, and things are great. I mean, obviously GDP is up 3% simply because we're getting some more tariff revenue in probably. We're getting some new stuff in here. The GDP might be up. I'm interested to know what the GDP looks like Q4. I want to see what that looks like. But so far it looks good, right? I don't think there's going to be any rate cuts. But at the same time, there was all this doom and gloom. Where is it? We're going to be at war and this and that, and the market's going to crash. And the market rebounded again. Things look good. We just had a jobs report that came out that was not stellar. He fired the lady that did the numbers. But most part, you can't sit here and tell me that you don't feel more optimistic and you don't feel like at the end of the day, these deals are coming in rapid fire now, and countries are paying America more now, and we're able to do business in more countries now. I like it. I'm happy about it. I feel comfortable about it because up until that point, I'm sick and tired of us having to take it in the you-know-what everywhere for everyone else, and no one else ever has to do anything. And then you and I have to sit here and go, well, prices are expensive and all things expensive. Well, I don't think that it has to be that way if things aren't made in America. We can make stuff in America again. We can do all that stuff. I'm not saying that we have to transition back to a manufacturing economy, but the reality is this: China's so powerful, it's the number one manufacturer. Well, then bring the manufacturing back then. People will do it with advanced technologies. If we allowed a rebirth and a revival in America of American technology, took all the tape down in America, cut the red tape, brought it all down, and let the ferocity of American capital and ingenuity go at work, you would come see a complete paradigm shift with all the new technology and the resources happening today. And I think that the tariffs and that economic policy is step one to do that.
Okay. I will tell you and look you in your eye and tell you that U.S. tariff policy is not in the best interest of Americans, Chris. And let me explain why. If you break down the tariff, you're looking at primarily goods and services that are manufactured. And so one of the primary arguments that Trump used is that we're at a trade deficit. And so I have a relative that works in one of the ports. And one of the things that he tells me is when you see ships coming in from other countries, they're very full of cargo containers. And the United States, they ship out ships. Those cargo containers are very, very small, relatively speaking. Now think about it. A country exports goods and the United States imports the goods. And then when the good is imported, then it goes to a retailer. And then, it goes to a wholesaler, and then that good goes to a reseller, and then it comes to us. So math will tell you that if the cost to bring something into the United States goes up, that cost is going to ultimately be passed down to the consumer. I went to the dollar store in preparation for our conversation today, and I want to show you something. So remember, why was it called the dollar store? Because everything in there cost what? $1.
$1.
Right?
But, to be fair, before you go there, it hasn't been the dollar store since 2019.
Okay, my point exactly. You're falling right for it. So right here, it's $1.25, right? But guess what happened? In preparation, I went into the dollar store yesterday. That same thing, the $1.25 is covered now. Guess what? It's $1.50. So that means since 2019, assuming your numbers, your timeline is correct, the cost of goods and services for the people who need it most has gone up by 50%, Chris. So this fabric softener that used to be $1 5-6 years ago is now 50% more. How is that better? Now, will that impact you and me? Absolutely not. It doesn't even show up on my radar. But for the person that's struggling to get by, to feed 3 and 4 kids, that's working 2 and 3 jobs, and now the kids can't see mommy and can't see daddy, that's a really big impact. And so the thing that's not being taken into consideration is that the United States has shifted from a manufacturing society, because remember, we used to be agrarian. Then you had the Industrial Revolution. Then we turned to a manufacturing economy. But now we're a service economy. And if you think about services, think about when's the last time you watched a movie from any other country? People consume our movies. When you look at all of the Marvel movies, you'll see the domestic sales and then you'll see international sales. Oftentimes the international sales 2-3x the domestic sales. We export computers. We export, engineering. We export good, software more than anybody else. And that part isn't taken into account into this whole trade, conversation. Really, at the end of the day, if you think about it, a tariff is nothing more than a consumer tax. That's really what it comes down to. So even though more revenue comes into the United States by way of a tariff that's being imposed on other countries, the everyday consumer doesn't see those benefits. They're the ones that are paying, because think about it, if you own a restaurant and before you were paying X number of dollars for beef and all of your foods, and now you're paying X plus 30%, what's going to happen to the cost of the items on your menu? They're going to go up, aren't they?
100%.
They're going to go up. And when I go into your restaurant because you're paying more, that's less money in my pocket. How can that be good?
So I think the issue is this. We've allowed this problem to happen over the last 30, 40 years. And now it's at our doorstep. I remember back in the day when you could go to Walmart and 80 to 90% of things in Walmart said made in America. Do you remember those days? You could go to Walmart when the Walton family owned Walmart. And it was, I remember bicycles. You could go to the bicycles, Huffy, everything. It had the flags on it, made in America. I remember that going to Walmart when I was a kid. Nowadays, you can't even go to Walmart and find hardly anything made in America. So how is it that made in America worked in the 90s and in the late 80s, but made in America doesn't work today? Why? Because we've had this progression of bad trade policies that has forced or incentivized American companies to patriate business and manufacturing out of America. That's just the way it is. Look, China's building nuclear power plants, coal power plants, manufacturing facilities, and they're not just going to continue to build legacy manufacturing. They're going to continue to build advanced chip manufacturing, animatronics, robotics, AI, all of this stuff's going to happen here. If we don't fix this right now and force American companies to repatriate development, R&D, and manufacturing in America, then the family that's struggling today because tariffs are high, they didn't got to worry about today. They got to be worried about some type of indentured life coming in the next generation, because it's going to get really ugly. Because if America is not a preeminent power and a governing power of the world, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't want any other country to be a preeminent governing power. I don't trust China. Would you want the UK to be your preeminent power in the world? Would you want China? Would you want Russia? Would you want India? Would you want any of these emerging countries that could potentially be in leadership positions? Hell no. So in a matter of survival, is it hard right now? Is it going to be rough right now? Yes. But I really, really think that by doing this, you're forcing American companies, like you had, what did you have there, Len? By the way, great thing there. I knew you were going to get me that way. How hard would it be to manufacture envelopes? Those were envelopes, right?
No.
How hard would it be to manufacture? What was it? Envelopes?
Fabric softener.
How hard would it be to manufacture fabric softener in America?
It'd be quite hard. Well, okay, but here's the challenge, though, Chris. When your argument is the same argument that people had when we transitioned every single time the economy shifted. When we shifted out of the agrarian economy to an industrial revolution, to the industrial age, a lot of the farmers were saying, man, what's going to happen? Our lands are being taken over. We're not able to create as much food because all of these machines are taken over. So now I can't even grow food to support my family. But what happened is more jobs were created. And in a previous conversation, this is the same argument you used, which is innovation creates new opportunities. Think about it. When the car was created by Henry Ford, a lot of the people were saying, oh my gosh, we don't want a new car. We want a better horse. If you can help us with that, that would be awesome. And so people were saying, oh my gosh, these cars are going to come and they're going to rip the heart out of our economy. And now when we went from a manufacturing, you talked about 30, 40, 50 years ago. Well, you had places like Detroit, Michigan, that was there, for Ford and Chrysler. Well, that ship has sailed. And because of the cost of labor being shipped to other places, if you're by using capitalism, by using a capitalistic perspective, you understand that if you can create a product for a cheaper price, you're going to increase your profits. So therefore, if you have two workers, one worker is here in America and another worker is in China for a fraction of the cost because it increases your bottom line, you're going to ship your labor out to Canada. That's the capitalistic way. You cannot have it both ways. The overwhelming majority of your cost for your means of production in a capitalistic system is labor cost. So if labor can be shipped out for a cheaper amount, you're going to do that. And that's exactly what happens. And because of that, Americans lost manufacturing jobs. So as I wrap up, here's the thing. We are in an information and a technological age. There is going to be a fundamental shift. Manufacturing is never coming back to the United States the way that it was. It doesn't make any sense. That ship has sailed, Chris. And so there's not going to be the good old days of American manufacturing. We dominate in technology. We dominate in producing new revolutionary ideas and artificial intelligence. And so we are in a war with China for that. And so that is a real concern that America should have. We should be focusing our effort on making sure that the children of our country and the people who are working right now, the working poor, start to understand AI and technology and service-based jobs, because service-based jobs are north of 80% of our economy. Right now, less than 10% of our jobs are manufacturing. In fact, how many people in your family do you know is in manufacturing? Probably none. I don't know anybody in my family that's in manufacturing because that economy is gone.
Well, then at that rate, then that's why tariffs are great, because they should then pay the tariff and the luxury of having access to the U.S. market.
But it is,
if we're going to give them the ability to use labor and to manufacture, if we're going to allow them to have manufacturing and say, okay, cool, we're going to allow companies to patriate manufacturing and to give all that stuff over there to a different country and allow that business to flourish there and allow their economy to flourish, and then they're going to export all their product here and not allow us to export anything to them because the tariffs are biased, then they should, then fine, great. Don't make anything in America. But at the end of the day, strategically pay to have access to our economy then. Because we pay to have access to their stuff in tariffs, they should be paying us a premium, just like you pay more to shop at Target than Walmart. Why? If I go and I buy fabric softener, Downy fabric softener at Target, it's going to be more expensive than it is at Walmart. Why? Because I'm paying for the privilege to shop at Target. It's less chaotic, more cleaner, and it's just a nicer experience. I pay a premium to shop at Target. I like shopping at Target. I like it because it's just nicer. It's just a nicer experience, right? That's why we do those things. So if you want to pay a premium to have access to the American market, then expect to have some tariffs, because it's only fair to offset that. What is unfair is that all these other countries are selfish, and all these other countries have been so fat and fed off the American teat for so long that they're bitching and moaning now that they actually have to give up a little bit. There's no secret why you've seen all these countries that are manufacturing, like China and all these other countries that have blown up and have had success, because we've given them that success. Not saying we've given it all to them, but we've allowed them to take American IP and American productivity and make it there. If you look at China and you look at all those emerging countries, they're playing the same rule books that all the other westernized countries did, except they just do it a little bit more corrupt, right? And that's really the idea here behind it is, I think the tariffs offset it, but we can come back to it and visit a little bit more later on. No. I think it's still a good thing. And I think it's creating, I think at very best, whether we agree with them working or not, I think the fundamental thing that's done the most good is it's put other countries on notice that don't mess with America and fall freaking back in line with what's going on. Because here's the fact. I'm not about all like, oh, America should be powering and everybody should be listening to America. But I don't trust any of those other fools to do anything right, and no one's stepping up to do the job, so therefore we have to do it, and we're doing it. No one else is stepping up to do it.
Okay, so one, I understand your perspective from the standpoint that there needs to be parity. But the big misnomer is that tariff rates have historically been under 5% for everybody, because the difference is that now we have a global economy. So like, for example, Starbucks gets most of their beans, their coffee beans, outside of the United States. Without other countries sending those coffee beans to the US, Starbucks is not what it is, because you know, the way in which the topography is versus the weather and all of those things. There are different goods and services that they need from us. So like, we export a lot of oil now because we were able to refine and find lots more oil. Now, obviously, people that, you know, want more renewable energy would have an issue with that fact, but it's still a fact that other people benefit from that. And as a global economy, having low tariffs is good for everybody. But when the United States uses their positional dominance globally to impose their will on other people, which in fact is having a bigger effect on our allies, then that makes people have a bad taste in their mouth about how the United States is doing their foreign policy. And so this conversation started with Trump. Trump ran on his presidency about being America first. But when you crap on your allies, because tariff is a foreign policy, and it's close.
Yeah, but they were crapping on us before. They weren't paying what they needed to pay. NATO spending was down. These guys finally agreed to a 2% increase, though.
Now, the difference is in NATO. Yes, I agree with you that with NATO, there was definitely an imbalance, because when you're talking about the cost of arms, the United States would fund a lot of different a lot of different militaries all around the world because we build the best and the most advanced aircraft. And that goes back to, we have a surplus in that area. So Boeing and used to be McDonnell Douglas and all of those companies, they benefited greatly by that. So yes, I agree with you with NATO, but as it relates to tariffs, tariff rates traditionally have been under 5%. Now, some countries more and some countries less. But, when you talk about imposing a 30% tariff on Canada, bro, like they've been some of the greatest trade partners over the years, and using fentanyl as a reason to increase the rates is a problem. Last point I'll make about tariffs. Just go study the historical numbers on what the tariffs have actually been versus the rhetoric that you hear on mainstream media. I think you have a different perspective. And the other last point is that the whole idea is that tariffs should be made by the rule of law. There should be a systematic approach, not personal vendettas that the commander in chief has against other people. He just imposed a 50% tariff on Brazil because the president doesn't like the way the old president was treated by the new president. There's no rule of law there. And so you have this whole issue with Canada that I just mentioned. They're talking about 35% tariff on them. And so there's no rhyme or reason. It seems like to me, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the president uses his power based on his personal vendettas that he has on other leaders to bully and create these arbitrary laws. Because if it was based on the rule of law and a systematic order of the way in which tariffs were rolled out, there wouldn't have been this on again, off again process where, hey, we're going to do this. Oh, we're going to extend our deadline by a week, by 90 days, by 30 days. It's so arbitrary. Then because of the fact that it's arbitrary, you have no way as a business owner to adjust. And so we haven't seen the impact of tariffs yet because we don't know what the ultimate cost is going to be. And once that date is set, there's a rollout period from the time where something is manufactured to the time that it reaches our shores, that those prices will begin to be borne by the U.S. citizen about between 6 and 9 months from now. So we don't even know the impact yet.
And closing this up, I think we give too much credit to all the other world leaders. They're all bullies. They're all bullies. They all have an agenda. They're all assholes, and they're all looking out for themselves and their specific. Sorry, Len. I'm brash. Okay, they're all. Trump's going into a room.
And
full
Trump
of bullies.
isn't.
He is. I'm not saying he isn't.
Okay.
I'm not saying he isn't. Trump is a bully. Trump is a bully, and Trump is a bully. He is. Trump is a bully. He is. He's an alpha bully. But you know what? We knew that, and that's why America elected him. Because there's an overall consensus, I think, in America that we're done being bullied. So if nothing else, I think the tariffs are strategic in that I think he has to respond a lot of ways with the erraticness based on how the other leader responds. I mean, I don't think it's entirely him being a lunatic. Yes, I think he's a little off to the side on a lot of different things, but most leaders in that type of category are. If we go back and we study a lot of leaders like him that make a lot of big changes in the world. I mean, you look at Napoleon Bonaparte, you look at other good leaders, Napoleon Bonaparte he was a great leader. Ultimately, he failed in what he was doing.
Effective, but he was a tyrant.
He was effective. He was a tyrant. But you look at even Churchill, even Roosevelt, all of these guys, they were very, even Obama. Obama asserted his presidential power in a lot of ways to bomb a lot of countries. He asserted that power. Violent power, right? Okay. So you can sit and compare and contrast all day long. Trump may be a bully with his actions, but Trump didn't bully another country with bombs. And I only use that because a lot of people say, oh, Obama's so sleek and so nice. That mofo bombed a lot of countries with drones. You want to talk about being impersonal? That's pretty impersonal, right? Bush bombed a whole country without any proof of WMDs, right? So that's a bully. But I also think he's responding in a lot of other bully ways. But here's what I can say. He's not responding in a way that other leaders respond with war and threatening war. He's just threatening economic policy. He's actually being pretty diplomatic, I think, about a lot of the things he's doing. But I think he's responding in kind a lot to a lot of the characters he has to deal with. So I think I give him a little bit of softness on that. Ultimately, I think that American ingenuity would find a way to have a manufacturing renaissance. Yes, I think manufacturing is dead, but I don't think it will ever come back in the way that we used to see it. But I think that if you allow the American people to innovate and think creatively and get off their freaking back and just put them on the focus of, dude, go be happy, go live, and we're going to give you the best environment to innovate and thrive in, I think you would see a reemergence of micro manufacturing. I think you'd see a reemergence of community manufacturing where you'd see stuff made in local communities and you'd see people buying local.
I agree with that. I think
you would see that much like you used to see. You'd see, hey, here's Len Cooper. He put up $3 million of his own money because he's a local entrepreneur. He's retired now. Think about how much money gets raised to do all different things all over the place, right, Len?
I think 3D printing, manufacturing like that. I agree with that part.
Yes,
I agree with that. But mass manufacturing and using tariffs as an incentive, that's just not going to work.
I don't think the tariffs are used way that way. I think tariffs are ultimately used at a higher level to negotiate with countries on the bigger picture stuff. And I think we just see the tariff stuff. You get what I'm saying? I think that's a way for us to open the door and negotiate for the rest of the countries to say, look, America's not being bullied anymore. You guys have taken advantage of us for a very long time. We've been the peacekeeper. We've been the police. We've also done our own things where we've done some bad stuff that we got from our parents being the UK. Let's not forget that America's parents were mostly from, British, UK, and we watched them be colonialists for a very long time. So we do a lot of bad stuff that we got from our parents. I like to stress that because a lot of people throw shade on America, but America's a young kid still, and we learned from a lot of the other countries in the world, and I think we're doing a pretty freaking good job being students and learning from all the crap these other countries did throughout the history of the world. We're not perfect, but I think the tariffs by and large are a means to kind of settle things down a little bit and get everybody to play fairly with each other. If we do really want a world economy to work, we can't be screwing each other. And I think before tariffs came in, we were all screwing each other. There's no doubt about that. Everyone was screwing each other.
I want to find a list and post it here in the editing process.
Let's do that.
That shows country by country what other countries charged U.S. goods coming into their ports. Because again, United States is not a big manufacturing economy. We make our money through service. So I'd be very interested to see that. Tell me.
I do know this, Len, because lead to this point before I forget. It is still illegal to buy American beef in Australia.
Okay.
That's absurd.
It's
because Australia doesn't allow American beef to be imported to Australia. That's absurd.
And now
how can you compete in that market there?
Well, okay. Europe does that too, but America does the same thing, and so you have to understand that Australia is a country and a continent, and if they don't impose that type of tariff on their own goods and services, that's going to have a major impact on their local economy. And so their farmers and all of those folks would fall by the wayside, because Europe does the same thing on certain poultries and certain meats. And so, yeah, let's make sure we do some research and we put up a chart that shows that.
Very intellectually into that, Len, because I think we could do a lot. I think we could do a lot with that. But I think this was a very productive conversation today. I think it was. I think we got a lot covered. I think that we have a lot of questions that are still unanswered. And I think we can go further with it, a few different things. But to see, again, navigating through what's right and wrong and effective, that's always going to be the hardest nuance to understand, especially when you don't have the perspective that you have. But outside of that, Len, if you want to lead us out for today, I could do us the honors.
Well, listen,
unless you have anything else we want to talk about.
Nope. I hope that all of you that were watching got value from this, and we're going to continue to get better every single week. We're going to continue to come with more information and more perspective. And so our outcome is to make sure that as you're watching this, that you learn about financial matters, that you learn about healthcare matters, that you learn about health matters, and you get a little smarter from learning about two different opposing viewpoints as it relates to current events. And so with that being said, make sure you make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, and we'll continue to give information and continue to grow. So with that being said, take care, everybody. Until next time.
See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.